Welcome to Beyond the Trowel, the podcast that builds more than walls. Hosted by Shauna Alvarado, controller of O'Donnell Plastering, Inc., with co-hosts Kayla Alvarado, head of payroll and labor compliance, and Kira O'Donnell, safety manager and marketing coordinator. Each episode, they bring in voices from every corner of the construction industry, from boots on the ground to leaders at the top, sharing real stories, tough lessons, and a whole lot of heart. You're listening to Beyond the Trowel.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the ODP Beyond the Trowel podcast. We are super excited to bring you our second series. In the second series, you are going to hear, we are focused on family businesses, which, believe it or not, there are so many out there. So we are super excited about that, especially coming from us being a family business. And we are especially excited today to have a special guest with us, somebody very well known in the industry, somebody that I am so proud to know, and a very dear friend that was to my parents. My father, was very much inspired by this gentleman, and I'm lucky enough to call him and his wife my friend as well. So welcome, Jim Ruane.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for accepting. So we are going to start in, let's just jump into tell us a little bit about you and how did your company, was it part of, did you start it? Did somebody else start it? How did, Jim Ruane get started?
Well, the name of the firm is Patrick J. Ruane Incorporated. That's named after my Uncle Patrick, who immigrated from Ireland with my dad and a couple of other siblings in probably 100 or so years ago. And he started the firm in about 1940, so we're in our 85th year. He started it. My dad worked with him, took it over in the mid-'60s when my uncle passed away. And then after I did 5 years in the Navy, I came back and worked with my dad for a while, and then pretty much became my firm. Now my son is the RMO, and he's running it pretty much. I tell people the guys in the office have 2 and 3 computer screens, and I still have a yellow pad and a pencil.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works just as well.
It does.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the thumbnail sketch of where we are and where we were. We do all different kinds of lath, plaster, drywall, special finishes, historic restoration. I can go on, and we'll probably talk about some of that.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I do. I love also getting to know Jimmy as well as the second generation. I think is super cool. What was the original vision of the company? Was it always wanting to be in the lath and plaster, or anything? How did that
Well, I can't speak for my uncle as much. I can remember going down to the old shop in San Jose Avenue in San Francisco, and one of the biggest jobs they ever did was in the early 1950s, which was the largest lath and plaster job on the West Coast, west of the Mississippi, was Park Merced in San Francisco, near Stonestown. And I can remember as a young child with my dad out there looking at the lime pits. Years ago, they had big lime pits, which are used with gypsum plaster for finish coats. So it was primarily at the time lath plaster, some stucco. Drywall wasn't really that popular at the time, and it finally evolved into part of our work. Yeah. It was lath plaster unions at the time. And then it evolved into working with the carpenters, into drywall, and with the lathers. So, we work with laborers, carpenters, lath plaster unions, and it's evolved into many, many different types of things in the field.
Right. I see the industry expanding so much.
Exactly.
So super fun to watch. And I'm not sure if I missed it, but like here, we're like you, 100% union, right? I think except for the 3 of us sitting here at the table.
Right.
Are you a union member?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So then the 4 of us. But our field, including, my dad was in the union, and that's how he primarily got started with here, being a plasterer, working with Gary Filizzetti, and DevCon over there with his dad. And Jones Bridges. So, and then, my brother is in the union, my husband's in everybody, right? Even my son now is in the union. So, learning, the lathing, plastering, whatever it is out there. So how about, did you have, well, you obviously didn't, but how about Jimmy? Did he have, do you have any of the office people that are, with field experience?
Yeah, my son is not in the union and hasn't been physically in the trades, although he was like me as a young teenager. He worked in the summers. And you throw some plank together and you build some scaffold and you drive a truck and you get to know the men and you get to know the field and you get a feeling for the industry. So he's not a union member, but two of my project managers, senior estimators, are in fact former union lathers.
So they have
they have the field experience,
I think that's always
really valuable.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. I think, even with us here, I didn't have the parents who said, get in the trades, get in the trades. Mm-hmm. But these girls right here, I even tell Kira, the first time, another women cohorts comes around or a training, I think should be amazing. Mm-hmm. I tell my youngest daughter, there is nothing wrong with the trades. Get into it, whether it's, doesn't have to be here. It could be mechanical. It could be, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is. Actually, I think if I could get her into like the crane operating or, she wants to break buildings, I could, I think she could almost wanting to do that. Yeah. But I would love to see, that push a little more.
The big thing we see nowadays, and you see it yourselves, is the lack of skilled people out there. Right. And when I went to high school, I went to a high school that had a mandatory 4 shops. Right. Sheet metal, wood shop, electrical shop, and so. But that's all gone by the wayside. Yeah. And so many kids nowadays, and I won't generalize, but so many kids nowadays go to high school and then they go to college and they come out of college and they're going, what am I going to do? And I have this huge piece of debt. Whereas nowadays the opportunities are there, especially through the unions, the carpenters, the plasterers, all of these have wonderful, wonderful programs to blend high schoolers into the trade so they can see maybe I want to earn 6 figures and maybe I want to have a full health plan and maybe I want to have a pension and maybe I don't want to have a lot of debt and maybe this is for me. Right. So the opportunities are slowly coming up, and I think you're going to see this more and more in the industry, and not just flat plaster and drywall, but all the other industries, because we really need skilled people out there. And like I said, they're making a wonderful living.
Absolutely. I don't believe college is for everybody.
Exactly.
So I do think there is so many other alternatives there that kids can take advantage of. Even, adults, when they want to switch careers. I think there's a lot. And I know WACA, with, Sarah over there is doing a ton of outreach to the, high schools, the career days, just getting involved in Boys and Girls Club, just, a number of other things that can benefit, our young adults. Exactly. I remember when I think cooking class was my favorite class to go to. I ate cauliflower back then. These guys wouldn't believe it. Wouldn't do it now. So, but, they don't even have those. Right. I remember taking plastics in school. Loved bringing home projects. Mm-hmm. No, they don't have any of those kind of projects anymore. Yeah. It's all the STEM. It's all focused on, the engineering and trying to, which is fine. Yeah. But, there is the other alternative.
Which is fine to a degree. You can listen to a book on tape or you can read it. It's kind of not exactly the same. But you get the exposure to working with your hands and then seeing what they can do and what the end product is. And it's like, whoa, this is just a start. Yeah. And it's just a wonderful experience. And you can see it in the eyes of the kids.
How many times did I tell you that, Kira, when you started here? I'm like, she was a brainiac. We're like, she's one that it's like, why did you not go to college? You're here, this, exceptional student and everything. And it was like, nope. And she, from a very young age, was like, nope, I want to work in, the family business. And, we were like, no, you got to go to college. No. So she started, but it was like, you can't learn construction out of a book. Mm-hmm. You might be that brainiac, but you need to get your hands dirty and go out, check the job sites, know what the materials are, just, get exposed to the language and not the bad language, but the everyday construction, lingo.
And that's what we see a lot. As managers of companies and stuff, we see, unfortunately, a lot of these young architects and engineers go to high school and go to college and get their degrees, blah, 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 and they don't have any field experience. So the danger is when they're making, drawing up specifications and writing all of these requirements, it's like rote from book. It's not based on practical experience.
Right.
And a lot of times we'll have to try to correct them, but that's an iffy kind of a thing nowadays because you don't want to step on toes. So
Right.
we've seen a lot of things that don't work, and it's like a battle to try to get them to switch over to things that will work because we have the experience in the field.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And and I have a son who graduated 4 years Chico on a construction management. And it was like, yes, you can come here and you can estimate the jobs, but how well are those jobs going to be estimated? Because you know how to take off a plan, but you're not going to know the materials. You're not going to know the cost of those materials. What are the different trims? What are the different finishes? Or just, getting, as we know, how many yards can you get per hour done or whatever. So we're like, nope, you got to go into the field. You need to work side by side with, your fellow construction workers and learn the trim, learn the materials. And he loves it. He would rather be out in the field, but it's like, hopefully one day their vision is to, be, when we're not here, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it was like they need that field exposure and just learning. So I think
some
it's
of the
great.
stuff that I learned and pass on. How long will this take? How long will it take? I go right to the guy in the field many years ago. What do you think?
Right.
I think you can do this. No, we can't because of this. Or wait a minute, we can do a lot faster because of this. And these are the guys and the women that are doing it.
Yeah.
And so they're the teachers, and you have to rely on them and respect them and listen to them.
Right.
Yeah, and there's always something new to learn. We just had a couple of our guys in the back learning a new product. So there's always room to learn versus, no, I already know how to do this. No, there's something new and more improvement as to materials and stuff to put on the walls and all that.
Right.
Yeah. So going back to family businesses and relationships, how do you balance family and work? I know many times we've had a big hairy fight here, right? Major not talking, calling each other names, whatever it is. But it's always at that one night that it's like, oh, shoot, we have dinner tonight together, So then we have to go sit at the family table or meet at mom's house or something. So how do you balance, work life, whether it's, just even with travel or just taking, for us, we take it home with us. I don't know if there is ever a switch. We try and try. I remember getting so many times in the car with my dad, and it's like, no, we won't talk about business. And it's like,
Then you talk about business.
Yep, first light we come to in a stop, it's,
That's right.
well, how was work? Or did you fix the mixer? Whatever it is.
You can't really segregate the two. You can't. It's a family business. So take it for what it is. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to bring it home with you, whether you like it or not. And sometimes you really like it. It's some good stuff, It's my income over the years, and it's kept us alive and gave us a very good living, frankly. Raised 2 wonderful children and 5 grandsons and married 52 years, and nothing ever really got in the way. You always have bumps, but every family does, regardless of a family business or not. So you can't segregate the two. You have to be able to kind of put one off to the side if you need to, and kind of get your priorities lined up. But don't let one overshadow the other.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I know, I do try to keep business is business. But then, I do always have in the back of my head, but it is family and we will always get through whatever it is together. So what happens when there is that argument? How do you, because I know there are some companies out there that'll say, nope, call me by my first name instead of dad or mom or whatever. And I know even Kayla has a nickname, which if you know us, it's Corella. My dad gives us all nicknames. And so I remember when she started here, my dad's like, no, you know what? That's so unprofessional. I'm sorry. I'm not going to call you that. I think that lasted 10 minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. And he was like, forget it. That's just who you are. And that's how I'm going to call you. And I think if my parents ever call me Shauna, then I know I'm in trouble. That just isn't happening. So how is, the not so nice times? How do you balance that?
You just do. I think there's some depth there that absorbs any kind of discontent, if you will. It just takes a lot of time, and like I said, you have to put your priorities in order. What you can really see is if you're having some contentious stuff, and maybe it's because the people they're not comfortable with working with the family business, and you can tell that. I was never pushed into it at all. It was just, you want to work during the summer, make a couple of bucks kind of a thing, and then you start getting into it a little bit more. Same with my son. He worked for out of college, graduated very well, USD, and came back to work in a bank and stuff like that. And he said, I don't really care for this too much. He got a job working with the general contractor, saw the bigger picture thing with all the different subs. Right. And then I said, if you want to give it a try, come on in. And it's worked. It was never forced. It was never, something that was mandated at all. And it's worked very well.
And I think that's a huge one, not having it mandated, not that expectation there. But having the expectation now that they work here, but exactly, because I think even with my own kids, it's like, this was not that expectation. I mean, Kayla's a hairdresser by trade, right? And then it's like, well, I need that full-time work and a steady paycheck, but I always tell them, if you are not, happy coming in, then maybe this is not the place for you. You have to enjoy it, because I do believe you want to have, that happy environment. You want happy employees, because if you don't, then are you really getting, the production you need? And, nobody wants to walk around like, oh, they're angry.
And it trickles.
Because that happens a lot.
That good and not so good things trickle down to the tradesmen.
Right.
And they know, so and so and this and that, and he's why. Wait a minute, it reflects on the people that are doing the work for you in the field.
Absolutely.
And so it can be infectious in some ways, good and bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So, and Noreen has always been very supportive.
She has.
She's wonderful, wonderful. And you and Jimmy, you guys have that, nice, smooth, personality. I mean, I can't even picture you ever angry. Well, I could. Maybe not Jimmy on this end, but, yeah. But it's really nice. You have great balance. And going to that, I wanted to touch base, because you're, I think we all know, or whoever, is out there, if they don't know, but you were the mayor of San Bruno.
That's
I
right.
remember when I seen you, of course, when whatever is going on, and I remember seeing you on TV. I'm telling my kids, I think we're on the way to school, and I'm like, hey, I know that guy right there, and they're like, who? And I'm like, he's the mayor. So, I mean, I thought it was super cool. So how did you balance that? I mean, because that was, a whole different arena, political, right?
Yeah. I've always been involved with the trust funds and the apprenticeship and stuff from early age, years ago. And you have to, number one, give back. And number two, if I tell guys, if you don't get involved in your industry, certain people are going to try to walk over you. So you have to keep involved and see what's going on, because it benefits you in the long run, as well as the people that work for you. So there was a time in 1994 in San Bruno, where I live now, a native San Franciscan, that I was watching the planning commission meetings and the city council meetings, and I said, these guys are back and forth, and what the hell's going on? I'm not comfortable with this. And so I said, instead of just bitching and moaning, I'm going to try to make a difference. So I put my name in for the planning commission, was there for a year and a half, became the chairman, and then opening came up on the city council, and I decided, what the heck, I'll just go and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that was 1995, and I was on the city council for 22 years, and the mayor for 8. We have San Bruno is the distinction of the only elected mayor in San Mateo County. Everybody else rotates their seats.
Okay.
So I ran for mayor, and I said, well, this is probably going to be it. It's a 2-year term, and after that, it'd be a great way to go out. People voted for you, and this is just a wonderful thing. And we had a lot of contentious stuff and a lot of development things that were going on. And then, of course, on September 9th, 2010, 14 and a half years ago, our city blew up, literally blew up. We had a huge gas pipeline explosion in the Crestmore neighborhood that killed 8 people, destroyed 38 homes, another 60-plus homes damaged, and it was just a traumatic event for the city. And like I tell people, you never know what the good Lord's going to throw your way, and so you just have to go through it and try to handle it.
Right.
It took me, it took me to Washington 4 times, to the NTSB to testify before a Senate subcommittee, to Sacramento, to New York for 60 Minutes, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, to Denver, to NARUC, which is the National Association of Registered Utility Commissioners,
Oh,
which I
gosh.
didn't know at the time, to Philadelphia to speak to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so I stayed as mayor. I ran 3 more times unopposed, just to kind of get through all of this with PG&E disaster. So we had a $70 million restitution fund, which we set up a San Bruno Community Foundation, and we went out to the people and said, what do you want to do? And after the neighborhood was completely rebuilt, and like I told people, we could have just wiped our tears and walked away and rebuilt, but we had to find out what was going on. We built a new recreation aquatic center and community grants to nonprofits in the community, scholarships, all different kinds of things, So it was just quite an experience, I would say.
Yeah.
So 2017, I retired as the mayor, and then now I'm on the board, vice president of the Community Foundation Board, which oversees the money. And we decided just at our last meeting to pretty much wind things down with one more legacy project, which we hope is going to be a new fire station 52, which is in the Crestmore neighborhood. So, so we'll see how well that goes. It just was quite an experience. And,
I'm sure. And all along that, being extremely busy, JP Ruane still stood thriving and
there again,
succeeding.
I had a wonderful crew. I had people in the office that cared about it, that could watch. I said, I'm going to New York. I'm going to meet the NTSB, and they want to talk to me about the metallurgy stuff, and they watch things for me. They monitor things.
Yeah, and I think that is extremely important. Because as we know, family businesses, these are our babies. It's extremely difficult, for my parents to walk away. I mean, if my dad was still here, he would still be here.
Yeah, sure.
He did not, people come in and, when are you going to retire? And it's like, why? This is, that you
it's
built
what I do,
this. And so it's really hard to pass on, the leadership and not hard to pass on the leadership, because I think that's important, and I think you guys have done an exceptional job doing that, because my dad was always a very good mentor and teaching me. He might not have known it, but I know he did. It's like taking me to the WACA, throwing me in with the wolves with the trust funds and, just everything. And it's like, you need to do this, or here, listen to this, or just getting me involved. He never sheltered me from anything. And, not even the way he handled things. If he, he was a little pit bull, and he'd say, you have to be this way. So, they groom you in certain ways. But I think, being able to step away and being able to do all that, you have to have people that you can trust.
Oh, yeah.
So how did, that come about, when Jimmy's coming in, you have him as the RMO, and he's, taking on a little bit more of the ownership, leadership roles. How was he how was he able to adapt to that and wanting to, and the willingness to be like,
I think,
okay.
He did and is doing very well. I think a lot of it's a matter of personality, and the same kind of thing, talking to the people that are doing the work in the field, talking to the people in the office that have field experience, and what do you think? And now it's, like I said before, I said the guys have 3 and 4 computer screens, and I have a yellow pad and a pencil, and they can do it, And if I have to turn on my computer, I say, wait a minute, what's this about? Walk me through it.
Yeah.
So they know. I mean, the industry is, as you know, the evolution is incredible. As far as sitting down on blueprints and taking off with a pencil, now you have these things on the screen that'll do almost all of it for you.
Shoot, AI can almost do it all for you. It seems like
you still have those personalities that have to gel. And it just worked really, really well. I'm blessed. We're blessed.
Yeah.
It's great, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
You're only as strong as the team around you.
You got it.
Yeah. And I know you have grandkids.
I do.
Yeah, because I know we talk about them. So are any of them interested, in coming into the business? Or are they still,
I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, little too early yet.
Yes.
Although when they drive across the bridge, they'll tell my daughter, did Grandpa do that building? Did he do that? Is that, those kinds of things. Then I have a 16-year-old junior who's big into crew, and he'll be a senior next year at St. Ignatius. And then I have a freshman at Cal Poly who's in finance.
Okay.
And then I have a junior who's going to graduate next year. He's 21, and he's in computer science and engineering.
Okay.
So I know Patrick, who is the 18-year-old, is coming to work for us this summer.
Okay.
Just to, like I said, clean up the shop, drive it, do some stuff. So
get
we'll
exposure.
see. Yeah, just exposure. It's out there. The doors are open, and if people want to do that, that's fine. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Hopefully, hopefully things will work out. But like I said, I have no pressure on anybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. I'm sure it's exciting. I mean, I know my mom loves to see, the grandkids here every day, and just knowing that it's still, going to be standing, and just to see that legacy, continue. And I think, again, going back to the last statement, just being able to comfortable to leave.
Yeah.
She's at a conference this weekend and wouldn't even be thinking of this place. I'm able to leave a little bit more, just knowing that, all right, payroll is, taken care of, and safety good, and, they're doing what they need to do. And I think it's also building them to want to see this place, succeed, and for them to be invested in it. It is their future. So if they're not invested in it, then,
That's right.
it's kind of like, all right, well, let's move on. So let's see, what's the legacy that you hope to leave behind?
A good, solid reputation. Treat people fairly for a decent price, and treat your employees fairly. I always tell the unions, I can't do it without you, but you can't do it without me. I said we have to work together. And some has been contentious over the years, but lately it hasn't been that way. And I think a lot of it's the realization that, we're in this together, because there's so many outside influences that are affecting actually unionization. And, we're kind of here on the West Coast, and we're sort of spoiled because this is a union bastion. But you start to go other places in the country, and a lot of people aren't treated very well.
Right.
So, as far as what I hope to leave, first of all, I'm not going anywhere for a while.
Right.
Like your dad and your mom, the whole thing. Just to be comfortable that wherever the business goes, the people that are running it are comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how do how are you maintaining as our industry does change, and how the generations have changed? I mean, kind of like just, us thinking outside the box, coming up with this podcast, or learning the new materials, or, just different things. How do you see that the next generation, what can they bring to the table to help enhance, where it's at right now?
Well, I think, speaking for myself, like I said, it was just, this whole thing has just been an experience. But now you have so many other factors that are weighing in on how somebody runs a business. You have all of the computer stuff. You have all of the new finishes that we never had, Shauna, before.
Right.
I mean, hundreds of them that come and go. Hopefully some stay. And then you have the people that have to put these finishes on the wall or apply a lot of the stuff that we're. So the industry is constantly changing. It's in a state of flux. And I think you have to be able to move with that internally and accept it.
Right.
The good and the bad.
Right.
Is there some stuff that we know not going to work, but people want to spec it and they want us to put it on.
Right.
And then you have some issues. And so it's like I said, it's evolution.
Yeah. I am a firm believer, though. I do think some of our old school ways are very valuable to our industry still. I think, we do try to, I know whenever I get the chance to individually talk to our guys or girls, or men or women, when we have like our all hands, I try to strongly make a point that they need to be proud that they are a union worker. They are a skilled tradesman, tradeswoman, and they need to take pride in that. and I'm hoping that it gives them a little sense of pride that when they're working on that job site, they're taking accountable that this is my project, this is my product, and I need to make it look good, and they're doing everything they can to be that valuable union member, instead of just taking it for granted and, I make this much, I'm getting a paycheck and I just want to go home. I think they need to really remember where they came from and take some pride in that and be proud of it.
Well, those applicators, men, women, workers, they're just kind of like me. My name's on a project when it's done.
Yeah.
My name's on it. And that's the way I look at it.
Right.
And a lot of these people that work for us, their hands are on that too.
Right.
When you walk away, I did that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just really important, especially if you get some accolades and things
Right.
that go along with it. It's
Right.
it's pretty exciting stuff. Some
Yeah.
special things we've done.
So I think, the special people that, are in the industry now, I think are realizing that and taking a little bit more pride and, excitement and knowing that they can, have quality work out there and be proud of it. So that's kind of cool to see that kind of continue.
Right, and I think in the bigger picture, what we've developed, and you were there, through the Wall and Ceiling Alliance, where we used to have kind of segregated union shops here in Oakland and all different kinds of places, we finally got together with your dad and said, let's see what we can do to consolidate a lot of this stuff. And it's really helped. It really helped. It hasn't put one entity in competition with another. It's like we finally joined forces, and because of it, we're a lot stronger. And
absolutely.
the people we hire are a lot stronger
Yeah.
too. Right.
No, I love when we have the collaborative meetings with the carpenters, the plasters, the laborers. I think so much comes out of that. And exactly, the days of when you're sitting at the table. I mean, you can still argue and have a good, healthy argument,
right.
but I think at the end of the day, you were seeing, the common goal on what is best for everybody. How can a contractor win more projects? How can we be competitive
That's right.
and keep their members working?
Well, keep them working, and in some ways in the Bay Area, it's difficult, a living wage.
Right.
So that they have a pension plan to rely on, and they have health care to rely on.
Right.
Whereas so many other trades and so many other people don't have anything close to what we have here.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of hard work, but we made it happen.
Yeah, no, I do. I really enjoy, and I do agree. I think it's built a stronger unity between, the contractors and the union labor and that.
Right.
So very, very exciting. I do enjoy seeing that. And I bring it back to, this generation, as well as Jimmy coming up on the board now. I think it's exciting to see that, progress and to bring that strength. So what is one thing that you would maybe perhaps do differently if you had to start over? Is there anything out there? Or what change?
I wouldn't say there's any one specific thing. There's no mark in time where I'd say, oh, God, I wish back in the 1978 I would have done this or that.
Right.
Just trying to keep your head above water. Sometimes have been pretty tough. And now, with the more I know and the relationship I have, it's a lot better. So I wouldn't say there's any one thing I would change. No, not one thing I would change.
It's nice to, when you say that, it's nice to have, even Jimmy coming behind, from the banking standpoint when he worked. Because, financially, we have that burden on us, to make sure we have enough money in the account, right? To pay the union benefits, to pay the payroll, to keep things moving. Because as we know, things are always delayed. You might be working here in, May and putting out, thousands of dollars in payroll and benefits. But you're not getting paid for that until, July.
That's right.
So you're putting out a lot of finances.
Sometimes you are the banker.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I know there's been many nights, that you lose sleep. Like, how am I going to make that work? Unfortunately, we've been good, but that does put a lot of financial stress.
And over the years, you learn who to trust and who not to trust.
Right, absolutely.
And you
Pick
have
and
to
choose.
you have to develop those relationships because there are people out there that in fact don't really care about ethics and things. So it's just a matter of, like I said, experience in the field, experience in life, who you and you have to get a pretty good idea who you can
And that
who you can trust.
networking circle.
You got it,
I remember
right.
sitting next to Nancy one time, like, hey, have you ever heard of this contractor?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, yeah, we had
Stay clear.
Yep. And so I remember then calling my office, like, you better make sure we get paid, and when you turn in a change order, whatever it was. Luckily, it worked out okay. But it's, we were leery. Like, you go into
Yeah.
that. And I think, regardless, competitors or friends or what, you want to make sure we're helping each other be able to thrive and succeed. So
That's right.
I think that. So, I greatly appreciate your time. I'm sure we all do. So what is one word of advice that you can leave us with, for somebody else wanting to, maybe start a family business, go into the construction? What would be your advice that you would give them?
It's not easy, but it can be very rewarding because it affects not only you. You don't go to work at 8 and go home at 5. It's a 24-hour thing, but it can lead to a lot of satisfaction and a lot of wonderful experiences for you and your family. And like I said, we're 85 years, and
Yeah.
so it tells you something.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. I think the one biggest thing is, and Kayla, what would you say? What's your biggest, thing that you enjoy working or don't enjoy working with family businesses?
I think just being able to work together and learning from my grandparents, learning from you, seeing how you guys were running this job, and hopefully that could be me and Kira one day. And you guys are definitely my mentors and people I look up to, because you guys are awesome. And I
thanks.
think the way you guys are running things is exactly how I want to keep this going.
Oh, well, thank you. I think the biggest thing is being able to see your family every day. I think those are, sometimes we all take, those just for granted, but being able to really appreciate that. And even though we'll be together 7 days a week, but, is there really anything better than that? Right?
That's the all-encompassing.
Yeah,
I can tell you
yeah.
that. Yeah,
So-
it's good stuff, and like I said, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, 90% of the time it's good. There is those moments, and I mean, and it's so nice because we even have like Rob here and Mike, that are primarily from family businesses.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, yep, we're all just one big happy family. So it's really cool to see. And Jim, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out and being able to join us today on our podcast. I know how busy and valuable your time is. So thank you very much for
Well, you're very
being
welcome,
here.
and thank you. This is just great to get
Yeah.
get other people exposed to a family business.
Yeah,
It's
so-
like I said, it's not easy sometimes, but it can be very rewarding.
Absolutely. So all the best to much more success. I look forward to
Thank you.
working with, I continue to looking forward to you working with you always. And I look forward to working with Jimmy. And please give Noreen and the rest of the family all our best.
I'll
And
do that and give your
thank you.
mom a big hug for me.
I will. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Trowel, a podcast by O'Donnell Plastering Incorporated. Whether you're in the field or in the office, keep building, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.